Good morning, Cynthia. How are you?
Morning, Caprice. I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you, in our gloomy Illinois that we're both in here. So, well, the sun will shine one day in spring if we have seasons anymore. I don't know if we do, but we kind of do.
We don't have much summer anymore. Well,
Yeah.
no spring. From winter to summer, I guess.
Yeah. So I'm so happy that you're joining me today because you and I are friends, and I just love learning about you and your journey and how you got to where you are today. So I'm sure others can learn from you as well. So can you just kind of take us through where you started and where you are and kind of where you're going and how you want and why you got there, and you're just a little bit about you and where you are now.
Okay. Well, thank you for having me. I think this is an awesome project.
Thank you.
Um, I come from a background of teaching. I was a high school teacher for just over 23 years. Oh, I say high school. I taught high school, and then I taught community college, and then I taught high school again.
Okay.
So I have math, English, computer programming, computer networking, computer maintenance. Um, I have, I guess I still have several industry certifications in computer land that I kind of in the background of my world to make my tech life a little easier. Um, it came down to in the classroom teaching, things have changed quite dramatically.
Yeah.
In even the last 5 years, and 10 years is crazy. There are a lot of students who come to school where school is not their priority. Survival is their priority.
Yeah.
So much hasn't changed, but the focus on that uh, has really ramped up in the last several years. But that last year of teaching, it wasn't a sudden decision. My husband and I talked about me leaving teaching probably for 3 consecutive years before I finally jumped.
Wow.
Yeah, we don't make decisions quickly, but it felt quickly to everybody else because they didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
I had to make more phone calls to DCFS, which is our Child and Family Services here in Illinois, for children who had no clothes. They would come to school hungry. I would feed them from my desk. I was feeding them breakfast in my first hour class because they had nothing.
Wow.
The student who unzipped a computer case and roaches rolled out.
Wow. That's rough.
Just that's kind of on the mild end of things. We had some more serious issues that we dealt with. So that was very emotionally
Sure.
telling. Carrying that home with you at night. Because if you're a good teacher and if you care and you teach with your heart, you take that stuff home with you.
Sure.
We also have seen a big shift in how parents respond to teachers. And not 100% of parents. There are parents out there who are very supportive. But those aren't the ones that the teachers get to talk to.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that we hear from. Um, and it was becoming more and more like the social media circus, only in person. It was rude, it was vicious, it was harsh.
Wow.
It was never a child's fault. There was always something that the teacher did, and it wasn't just my room. This was universal among teaching friends. In the last year of teaching, it was kind of a perfect storm of professional difficulties and personal difficulties um, that really made me reevaluate what I wanted to do with my life. We had 5 funerals in 9. That's a lot. Um,
Yeah.
changes your perspective on a lot of things. And one day I came home after a particularly difficult meeting at school, and I looked at my husband and said, I don't know if I can do this again. And he just said, okay, just okay. Not, what do you mean? What's going on? Can't you deal with that? Just
Sure.
okay. I was like, oh, dude, I love you.
Yeah, that's awesome.
um, and he is awesome that way. He's been very supportive. I said, well, what am I going to do? I said, I'm not saying I won't work. I'm just saying I can't do this work anymore.
Yeah.
He says, I just sit. He said, what do you want to do? I said, I don't know. And my daughter and I had a conversation about her college career. And um, she said, Mom, I don't know which major to pick because she's multi-talented. She's very strong in mathematics and science, and she's a great writer, which I like to think she got a little bit of that from me. But she's just a very well-rounded, very strong student. She's in the top of her class, so she could pick anything, and that was what stumped her. She didn't know what to do. I said, well, close your eyes and think about your perfect day. What would the perfect moment look like? She closed her eyes and thought about it. She says, Mom, I want it to include playing with puppies.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was like playing with puppies. Yeah, who doesn't like that? And this was about 2 months before I came to this moment. And I looked at my husband. I said, well, I want it to include playing with puppies.
I love it.
Like, what do you mean? I said, we haven't bred dogs or had new dogs. We'd also in this last 3 year span lost 3 family pets.
Wow.
And so it's like, I want to play with puppies. I want there to be life. I want
Yeah.
to celebrate that moment. And he's like, I don't think we need more dogs. I said, well, let's talk about it. I said, how would that work? And I pitched him the next project, and that was, how about we couple that with a boarding kennel?
Ah,
He says, what? I said, half of it is rental space to bring in an income. I'm here at home planning to be all day anyway.
yeah.
There's somebody else's dogs. I get more dogs to play with. They get a safe place, and I get a decent, a nice spot to raise some a breeding program dogs.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was kind of yes, this is what I want to do, but I need to support it with something else for a while. Um, and that plan hatched. So we have a 7 uh, kennel, dog kennel going up in the front yard.
Wow.
Acid runs 4R for rental. We're still working on the finalizing our license, and hopefully that will be as soon as I have one nice day when my husband's available to help me finish replacing a door,
Got it.
and then we can finish it all up, and I'll get that inspector out here, and we'll be good to go. So that's been in the works since last May.
Awesome.
At the same time, um, he says, well, what are you going to do the rest of your time? You don't need 8 hours a day out there. Like, well, I've always loved reading and writing, and it's been a dream to actually write a book.
Wow.
I've written books for friends, and I've written short stories and poetry my entire life. That was my venting, my release
Okay.
for high school anxiety and stress and so forth. And he's like, well, before you commit to anything else, he said, do that one thing, do the thing, write a book. He
Yeah.
said, publish one. He said, so you can say that you've done it, you're happy with it. Dude, did I mention I love you?
You got an awesome support system at home. That's wonderful.
Yeah, he's a nice, not just a nice guy. He's pretty good. Um, so that first summer, I not only wrote one book, I wrote 2.
Wow.
Yeah, they came out kind of strangely, but this one is based off of a short story. I sat down. This is George the Grasshopper. I feel great. I sat down one day and said, I'm just going to write for me. I'm going to write a fun story. I was like, what should I write about?
Yeah.
Commercial came on that had a grasshopper on it, and I said, okay, I'm going to write about a grasshopper. And it just kind of happened. And then when the summer came and I started looking at it, I was like, actually, that's a really cute story. I really like that. Um, if I changed it a little bit, and George has some problems with people that he meets, well, grasshoppers that he meets. George is 2 different colors of green, and the other grasshoppers make fun of him.
Okay.
So it becomes a story about how do you deal with feeling different or being different than what everybody else expects to see. And as I dug deeper, I started researching emotional literacy.
Mm.
Emotional literacy is really the ability of someone to recognize their emotions and to deal with them in a productive way. As a teacher, I've been aware of that, the consequences of not having that for years.
Yeah.
For myself, as I realized, like, I was not practicing emotional literacy by allowing myself to become burnt out and not changing the situation. So it's like this kind of became a driving force over the course of creating this book. Now, George has another book coming out in his series. It's with the illustrator right now. I don't know what the release date will be, but that's been a journey trying to get my illustrator lined up. And I feel so special saying I have an illustrator.
Right?
Yeah, very special. And then the second book stemmed from that journey about puppies.
Wow.
This is my puppy, or one of my puppies.
Cute.
Yeah. So this is Getting Ready for Your Puppies, a guide to choosing a puppy and planning ahead. So as I did all of the research trying to find the perfect puppy for my program, I realized that this is really overwhelming. There's tons of websites. There's a lot of scams. There are a lot of
Yeah.
dangerous places for people to look. It's like, oh, I feel like I'm computer literate. I'm fairly savvy with reading people, and I was almost taken in by some of these things.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where this stemmed from. So now in my program, if people want to know what should you be looking for, I have this book. I can provide that to people who are considering my puppies. It is on Amazon. Anybody can get it, but it was more as a tool to support the program, the thing that I wanted to do here at the house. Underlying all of that is this lifelong reading and writing journey that I've been on, and trying to teach students who may or may not have cared about their language skills
Yeah.
how to write coherently, how to tell the story. And as I used those skills writing both of those books, I realized this is something that a lot of people need. And
Mm-hmm.
rather than reading a website or a newspaper article and saying, "Man, they screwed that up," how can I make it better? So I started Myer Professional Language Services, and I do editing, proofreading, writing, coaching, whatever comes up under the heading of language. Um,
That's
and
awesome.
yeah, I've worked on a couple of smaller book projects and a website so far. It's not a huge push at the moment because I've been kind of bogged down building the kennel and publishing the books and so forth. But that's something that everybody should see more of coming up very soon. So I went from a burnt out teacher,
Mm-hmm.
would stay at school until 5 o'clock in the evening, drive 45 minutes home, make supper, finally get to sit down about 7:30, and grade more papers,
Yeah.
and get up and do it all over the next day. And on the weekends, Saturday was cleaning the house, doing the laundry, getting the grocery run, the minimum so that we can stay afloat. And then Sunday, I was right back to Sunday afternoon, grading those papers, making the lesson plans for the next week. And it really wasn't a life.
Yeah.
It was a slog. It was a slog through a very stressful job.
Right.
And now, my family comes home and they'll say, "Oh my gosh, thank goodness it's Thursday and tomorrow's going to be Friday." It's like, "Oh wow, tomorrow's Friday! Holy crap, where'd the week go?"
Yeah.
Um, I love what I do. I look and feel 10 years younger. Um, I wouldn't have thought that it was quite that drastic, but I recently updated my profile pictures,
Yeah.
and comparing the one that I made at the beginning of this journey uh, to recently, it's like, oh my gosh, I don't look like the same person. I don't
Wow.
look. I'm healthier. As a teacher, I needed blood pressure medicine.
Oh my.
I needed anxiety medicine. I needed sleeping medicine. Um, I have chronic health issues. I have rheumatoid arthritis.
Okay.
Uh, so I take like 2 medicines all the time for that. And we've been able to cut out all of the first 3 completely. There's no blood pressure medicine, no sleeping medicine, no anxiety medicine, no depression medicine. None of those gone within 45 days of leaving my job.
Wow.
Yeah. And we've been able to cut back on those other medications that I needed for the rheumatoid because as a work at home person, if I'm doing something that's physically taxing and I just need to sit down for 10 minutes, I'm allowed to do that. I can sit down and take 10 minutes or a half an hour
Right.
and then do something else. And usually when I'm sitting down for that half an hour, I'm writing on the next book or I'm doing the marketing for the first book, or there's a sit down job and then there's an active job, uh, and kind of balance the two.
And that you can make your own schedule that way too. So depending on kind of what's going on in your life, what you're feeling is that vibe for that month or day, you can either take dogs in the kennel, or you're just busy, or you're writing your book, or you got the next idea about your book. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
I love how you, I mean, I totally get it. There's been a complete shift with teaching and the children of today, and how, probably teachers were taught to teach children. I mean, the whole dynamics has changed overall, and even the support that you get probably on an administrative level, because I see with my children in school, and it's just, there's so many deficits and things that are going on. And my personal belief is, as a mom with children of these ages, that there has to be different types of communication that both, the state of Illinois is expecting, the teachers are expecting, administration's expecting, in order for, like you say, to have this coherent, conversation with kids, because we're not taught like we were 20 years ago, or even, 10 years ago for that matter. So, but I get it. I get why you had to get out, because, at some point the parents get frustrated too, and it's hard to find the balance between that. But I totally get it. But I do love how you saw it, and you weren't going to let it get you down. You just saw that there was another path, and then how you used your skills to change that path for you. So you have a kind of a wide variety. You like to write, so you found the passion and the fire, and then you wrote a book that essentially, I think it's a children's book, right? The Grasshopper book is a children's book. And, I know, because I've read it, that you have like learning points in it. So tell us a little bit about those learning points, not only about the story itself, but you have, I don't know what you call it, but like a question and answer type of thing throughout, correct?
Right. Yeah. I added the interactive part, and I wrote it specifically so that the vocabulary level is really above a child's level.
Yeah.
That's on. I want them to need help. I
Yeah.
want them to sit down with their adult, whether that's a teacher, a grandma, a parent, whoever that happens to be, uh, to talk to each other about the things and the ideas that are coming up in here. Because
Yes.
just having the child read a book about a bully, they know about bullies.
Right.
They've seen it, whether it's directed at them or not. They've already seen it. They know how that works. What they need to know is how to deal with it, and how to make that happen easier for them. So I've taken my teaching background and added those talking points and those leading questions. Most of them are open-ended,
Yeah.
um, that the parent has a guide to know how to dig in there. Because what I found is, if the child doesn't know how to deal with it, the parent probably doesn't know how to teach it to them. And
Right.
that's not necessarily a fault in the parent. It's the way that society has been, that you're not taught how to do that. So the questions are geared to make you aware of, hey, this situation is happening. The main character is struggling with this. How would you do that? How would you deal with that? Who are some people you could talk to about that? Because maybe the parent doesn't know. So what are some other sources? And then they can talk through those situations and those feelings, so that everybody comes out a winner, I hope.
Yeah, because I mean, I think we're missing a lot of that. With technology, and the kids are starting very much on technology. The conversation has definitely gone away. And then the conversations that we do have these days with our kids, I think we tend to be a little bit more open than what our parents may have been, at least in my generation. You kind of just went to school and you dealt with it. Like, if you had a bully, just deal with it,
Right.
ignore it, versus actually taking the whole emotional aspect to it. So I like how that it's open ended, so that you can continue those conversations, because kids' minds are so very curious, and then each of us have to learn how to accept that information and how to deal with it too, and put it into, real life scenarios. So I love that you've added that in there as well.
Thank you. That was my goal. So I'm really excited that somebody else saw that in there too. Um,
Yeah.
they're just opening the conversation, I think, is the hard part.
Yeah.
Parents. And this kind of gives you a door that you can open. And it's as trying to be non-threatening, because it's a grasshopper. I mean, not very threatening there.
Right.
Um, gosh. Oh, it's for that reason. I thought of something and I forgot it. Too many things going on in my head.
Absolutely.
For that reason, there will never be an audiobook version of George the Grasshopper. I've had two people contact me saying, well, why don't you do an audiobook so my kid can listen to it? Okay. Yeah, but that's not my point.
Right. Yeah. I
Never
think you
be
need
an
the imagery though too. The imagery is going to resonate with them to understand he's a different color. He looks a little bit different. He's, all those things. You need the visuals as well too. It's not just, this
right,
isn't just about riding on the car and having to listen to something on your car in audio. This is about getting the whole thing and visualizing it and putting it into perspective and having the child
right,
understand that they can ask these questions, that they're out there and that the parent is open to that too. Or the adult,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, because if they're just listening to it on their own and you're not interacting with the questions, then it's just another question. It's
Right.
just another story about a bully that they already know the scenario.
Yeah.
The real here is getting that conversation started.
Yeah. So what's in your, are you privy to sharing with us what's the next journey for George in his next series, his next book that's coming out?
George, yes, I certainly can. I'm really happy with this one. Um, George meets a pink katydid.
Oh,
There really are such things as pink katydids because a lot of people don't realize that research goes into the background. So the grasshoppers are as structurally correct as we can make them and still be caricatures. There you go.
okay.
To children. There are some rare pink katydids that occur in nature. It's based on what they eat and what's in their environment. Usually they're in like a drier meadow situation. You
Okay.
never find a whole flock of them or a bunch of them. You will find one or two in a large group of green katydids. So they're the outcast. So George meets Katie, the pink katydid, who's struggling with nobody likes to hang around with her, and she just knows it's because she's pink.
Okay. I love
But
it.
she has a few other things going on with her that really tells the true story. And George is trying to help her, take a deep breath and move on from believing that it's all about the one thing when there's some things that she could change to make it better.
Oh, neat.
This one's more geared towards those kids who suffer from anxiety. So there's some tips on how to deal with those anxiety moments and when you feel it coming on because you can feel it coming.
Okay.
Um, more about dealing with those anxious moments, dealing with others, and recognizing that what you do immediately affects how someone else perceives or reacts to you. And so, of
Absolutely.
course, there's a little touch of the danger in the meadow.
Okay.
One,
I
but yeah,
love though these are good adult teaching moments though too. It reminds us on how to, I think many of us deal with more anxiety than we like to realize. And then we're also going to learn what a katydid is. And and it's a good reminder just to take a break yourself. You're teaching these methods to your children. And so I love the messages that you're sharing with your books. And I continue to wait as you continue your journey through your publishing career here. So that's phenomenal that I'm so happy for you that you took that leap of faith and you have the support system at home to do that. Now here's a great or a question. So many people might not feel that they have that same support system at home. Maybe they're not married or their spouse isn't on board because they think they're crazy, or maybe, I don't know, just wherever they are in their life. Like, do you have any tips like to just like go for it and don't care what anybody else says? Like, because if you had stayed in that position, where do you think you would have been if you decided to still stay as that teacher versus taking that leap of faith for yourself?
I I would be probably within a couple of years looking at being forced into disability.
Wow.
I mean, things were that bad. Um, I didn't take the stairs very often because, in general, I just didn't feel good.
Yeah.
It would not be a fun place. I missed a lot of my kids growing up because I was dealing with all of that.
Wow.
So, number one, uh, and I know it's hard when you're in that place to find the energy to do that, the number one is help yourself be present. And I know everybody says that it's a catchphrase. Be present with what you've got.
Mhm.
You've got with looking around you because, like I said, we talked informally with each other for almost 3 years before taking a jump like this. Um, but if you're not talking about it, nobody knows that you want to do it. And
Yeah,
it's scary to say, I want to start a business. What if it fails?
right.
What if it does? Um, we are by nature, by as humans, uh, we stick with status quo because it's what we know.
Right.
And what we don't know is scarier. And taking a chance is scary. I get that. But when your status quo becomes scarier than taking the leap, you move.
Right. And you can find support systems too, even if don't have it at home. Find the other people out there that you think might be like-minded. Like you said, have those discussions, right?
Absolutely. One of my biggest groups of cheerleaders, when I finally said, because I announced in March that I was not coming back after May at school, one of my biggest sections of cheerleaders are my former coworkers.
Yeah.
Um, they're like, I am so jealous. Man, I wish I had the guts to do that. So one of the biggest support systems might be the people you already have.
Yeah, you're
Um,
right. They can resonate with what you're dealing with.
you need to talk about what you want to do. It solidifies the goals. It brings it to the front. It lets other people know, hey, you want to do the thing? I heard about whatever opportunity. Um, and maybe it's you step out of your zone and you go to a workshop or just a meeting with some people. Meet us for coffee. Start small if you're not ready to take the big jump.
But
But
just
there's
start
definitely
those small steps though, right?
something. Because if you always do what you've always done, you're probably going to get what you always had.
Good
Um,
point.
my
Good point.
grandmother always my grandmother always told me that. She said, if you always do what you always have,
Nothing's going to
don't
change if you don't make any changes, right?
don't complain when you don't get any changes from it. Um, the other big thing, don't be afraid to research. So many people overlook the power of the internet.
Yeah.
There is so much free knowledge. And there's a lot of paid knowledge, don't get me wrong. Run across both those. There is so much free knowledge out there on the internet for you to find. Some of my favorites, YouTube.
Yeah.
YouTube is a wealth of information. You want to become essential oil soap maker. Probably 10 million videos on YouTube about how to do that. And probably another million, or probably a million of those are people telling you, here's how I got started. Here's what you'll need. Here are some resources. Get out there, network. I was new to Facebook in March or April, shortly after I made the call to jump. And since then, I have joined probably 25 groups. I didn't stay in all of them, some of them weren't for me. But there's a group for every interest and profession out there. And the people there are going to be very, very willing, and it's been my experience, very willing to help you figure out which way to go and answer some questions and explore your options.
Yeah, I agree. Those are great tips because, once you do kind of let your guard down, whatever guard that may be, and you just ask that question, because I think our guard is up for the fear of being either laughed at or intimidated or something. But there are so many of us in the same boat, asking the same questions, looking for the same answers. So definitely being able to connect, like you said, more, you'll find that person or that information out there that you're searching for. And if you don't, you just keep looking.
Yep, just keep digging. And I a dozen times a day, and I'm only on Facebook, maybe an hour in the morning and an hour in the evening,
Well,
and a lot of to connect with friends and to update them on what's going on with me because I get a lot of, hey, what are you doing now? Um, a dozen times a day, I'll see people say, this might be a dumb question, but I'm just starting, XYZ company. I don't know what to do with, this thing. And there'll be, you know, 3 or 4 dozen answers within 24 hours. So there are people out there willing to tell you. You just need to find them, ask, and give what you can. If you know the answer to a question, then provide it.
Absolutely. The giving is the most important part too, right? It's not about what you're taking. Give back as well. And 'cause it's the simplest things, that will help somebody, that it does not have to be this dissertation or anything by that matter. You don't have to be some PhD, MD, whatever. You just have to be you, because your knowledge is invaluable to everybody.
Yeah, and that's been an eye opener. Things that I have always taken for granted, that people don't know. I mean, because that's just through my experiences, I have a knowledge set.
Right.
And it's not even the computer stuff or the math stuff or the writing stuff. Something as simple as trimming a dog's toenails the other day. Uh, a friend came over and brought her dog. We were testing our doggy doors on the small dogs to make sure that the steps were the right height. And I noticed that the toenails were very long. It's like, oh, I said, you should probably get those trimmed. She said, oh, she doesn't let us trim them.
Yeah.
She doesn't let you? And she's like, yeah. I said, that's not her choice. She's like, what do you mean? I said,
Right.
you're the person. You can tell her no. Oh, really? So I showed her. I was like, just you do it this way. She's like, I never even thought about it. So it's a shift in your mindset.
Right.
Because it's as easy as how to trim a dog's toenails, and it opened a whole new train of thought. That she's like, oh, I thought I had to take them to the vet for that.
And that's a great message that you shared too, because I was reading in Marie Forleo's book today. It's called Everything is Figure Outable. And
Mhm.
and I'm just in the beginning of this one, but it states kind of the same message. Like, you just have to learn to change your mindset in order to allow that growth to happen. So you can't, like we talked earlier in this conversation, you can't stay in the same mindset if you think anything's going to change. You have to be open
Right.
to growth. And if you're not going to be open to that growth, nothing is absolutely going to change. And again, it could just be like, I always wear black, but today I'm going to wear pink. Like, start with small steps. They don't have to be big, giant steps. Small steps always work. And to start there, nothing has to do a full 360 just to be, so overwhelming. Let's just start small and get you to where what feels right in your heart, in your gut, and what you know is meant to be for you too.
Absolutely. And if you're not ready to jump from a 23-year career into
What
four,
seems to be nothing, right?
then don't do that.
Mhm.
Start it as a hobby on the side or a side hustle, doing something that you like. But you make a change and change that mindset. And that's
Absolutely.
every little step, and then you'll find you're taking a little bit bigger step and then a bigger step because you're branching out and you're retraining yourself to
The
reach
growth is
for it.
happening.
Yep, reach for it instead of waiting for it to come to you.
There you go. I absolutely appreciate that and love that. So with that too, I kind of throw out a question to you outside of that. Well, you kind of might be answered this with the dog thing. So what is something you recently learned?
My biggest recent challenge has been trying to master marketing.
Yeah, that's a hard one.
I am not a marketer. I've had zero training with marketing, none. I had one accounting class in high school, and that is it.
That was enough.
And that's been a while. Um, so I've been doing a lot of reading and online researching and trying to figure out, um, what are the basics of marketing? What's the tenets that I need to follow? Because I know what I feel like I want to do, uh, but that's not always what I should do, at least not in that order.
Got
So
it.
making parts in order. That's been my biggest new thing, and I'm working my way through that.
I think we're always trying to go in it with the sale versus just trying to build the relationships, even though we think we're building the relationships with that. But like you said, we got to kind of step back, because we have to remember the average times we touch one of our potential customers is about 7 times before they actually become a customer, because you're building that relationship with them. So it's taking that. And I think we're also thinking too much about marketing, quote unquote, like a way that you're supposed to do it. And then we take away our personality too. And we have to remember to just be ourselves, right? And not do
Right.
these methods per se.
Yeah, and that was kind of the epiphany for me. Was like, okay, I was looking for someone, my very literal
Yeah.
mind you, looking for the formula
Yeah.
that I do 1, 2, 3, and things work.
Yes.
Not how that's not how it is. That's not how the world works. It's a follow your gut. If you do some of those basic things in there to make sure that you're not getting yourself in legal trouble or compromising your product or
Right.
over service, but it's just a lot of to me, marketing is coming down to just be a good human,
Absolutely.
and the rest is going to fall in your lap.
I totally agree with that. I absolutely agree. And I think we just have to step back and not think so much about it and what ways we keep hearing that you're supposed to do it from whoever's teaching you that. Because most of them will tell you, like one that I really like by Donald Miller, the story brand that he always talks about, it's just about
Right.
being you. Like just tell your story about who you are. People want to connect with you. People are only going to work with people that they resonate with, and like, so be you. Don't try to be something that you're not and try to promote it just because we think we need to make this commercial or whatever it may be.
That's the last full book that I've read was The Story Brand.
Did you finally read it? It's totally good, isn't it?
I had it for a while and I didn't have time, and I started reading it on the weekend, and I read the whole thing in a weekend because like, oh my gosh, this makes sense. That's what all my lovely post-it notes are. These are my stories.
Yep. It's one of those books I highly recommend because it is one of those that makes total sense. And I pretty much highlighted the whole darn book. But it's
Yeah,
one, like you said, it kind of gives you the ABCs with not being an ABC, like it really does tell you how to do it. So yeah, that's highly recommended on my bookshelf. That's for sure for anybody. I don't care what business you're in, what you're doing, even for personal growth, just understand it.
absolutely. It was, and it's great. Mine looks like I didn't want to write in it because that's the teacher in me.
Oh,
I that couldn't write in it, but I have post-it notes for my notes. It looks like a porcupine. It's just like
yeah, I get that. I'll either have my notebook next to me writing notes, or I'm one of those, I love flipping the pages over. I'm highlighting till the cows come home. And yeah, that's awesome. So I always love our conversation. I open it up to me. You are welcome to put me on the hot seat now, Miss Cynthia, and ask me any question you like.
Well, I do have a couple of questions for you.
Okay.
I'm curious because I've seen some of the events that you've pulled together. Yeah, because we've talked, because we do know each other outside of this little window. I've seen some of the events that you put together, but is that your primary focus, or do you have another side to what you do? So, what do you do with that?
So the primary focus of my business, my Caprice Marie overall, and why I created this business is really I work only with women. I mean, I'll talk with men, whatever, but my field or where my comfort zone is working with women in business, whether that's starting out in business, middle, whatever you're comfortable with. It's really about, I'm going to call it a little bit of hand holding. It's really getting you to the next step and helping you understand it. So am I a marketing guru? Absolutely not. Am I a web designer? Absolutely not. But I can take you through those steps of where you're stuck. So let's say, like you, I didn't know what to do with marketing. What's this message that I'm talking about? So when I work with you, it's to sit down, you tell me where that problem is, like where you think you're procrastinating. Because I believe we all get stuck because we've either watched the videos, read the books, and we think we get it, but then whatever happens in life, or just because I've been watching it and reading it, that I don't know. I know in my mind the steps to take, but sometimes I just need to talk it through with somebody to take it to the next step.
Right.
So,
I understand the theory, but I don't know how to do
right. So
middle step. So yeah.
absolutely. So it's me holding your hand and taking you through it one step at a time, because we probably have 20 things that we want to do on our, I call it, the stuff I want to do wish list, but just haven't done it. And
I'm laughing.
exactly. So, and we have like I said, everyone calls it procrastination. I don't really believe it's procrastination in the sense that I'm not doing it, but there's reasons behind I'm not doing it. And it's pretty much just because I need to talk it through. So I guess equated, like if I go on the teacher side, I'm kind of like a tutor, but we're gonna physically do it. The difference with me is I'm not gonna sit there and explain it to you again. We're gonna have a conversation, but we're gonna do it. So if you need to know how to write that marketing piece or navigate what is your business. We're going to take it down piece by piece. You're going to then understand it, and then you get to implement it without anybody else. You understand the implementation. So it's understanding the full picture and how it relates to your business. So then you can finish it. We'll do it together, and then you can move to the next step. But again, if I got to come back to this step, I'm comfortable in that step and how to do it. So that's where all of my workshops come into play.
And you are so very good at doing that thing. Just in our conversations, we formed our friendship. It's like, oh, I see the coach coming out on you.
Thank you. I don't know if it's always just my big mouth. I think it is, and the reason why I stepped into this, because again, I started something else. My thing, because I obviously want to get out of corporate America. My thing was, okay, I need money to do that, right? So I'm going to start an online boutique because I just love shopping. I love little boutiques when you go shopping. So I'm going to do that. Okay, well, how do I get the funds to buy the stuff for that? So then I started a t-shirt business, and I did my t-shirt business for about 2.5, 3 years because I can do it. It was one of those things, I can do it. I'm creative at it. But after doing it for a while, it just didn't excite me at all, like the creative side. But after like ironing shirts for all I'm making, I'm like, there's something else for me. And that's when I found, go ask that question to other people. Where do they see your strengths? And then from there is what everybody told me what my strengths were, which I felt they were, but I just thought it was me being a big mouth when I talked to you type of thing. It's like, you're just giving your 2 cents again. But people were telling me that they appreciated that about me. And so I've always liked, I guess in a sense, maybe a teaching aspect. I like when people get the light bulb moment. I love getting them to that point, and then they get to do it on their own.
Exactly what you mean.
I'm sorry?
I said, I know exactly what you mean. That's what led me into teaching. And the fun part is a lot of the things that I do now are still nurturing. I'm still teaching. I'm just doing it in a different way. I'm doing it on my terms instead of what mainstream America would think of as a teacher.
Right,
And
absolutely.
your skill is really being able to look from the outside of a problem and say, what happened to that piece right there?
Yep.
And you dissect it. And sometimes the outside perspective makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah,
I mean,
and just having that conversation.
Every day.
Yep.
They would be writing, and it's like, I don't understand why this doesn't sound right. Like, well, you have 4 short sentences all stacked together. You need to make it a long one in the middle. And then it flows. It's
Right.
something as simple as a little change, but you got to be able to see it before you can change it.
Exactly.
I think that's one of your superpowers.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I love doing it. It's just learning so much for everybody when you work with them too. And there's just so much more to learn. But like I said, even if I don't have the answer, I'm like you, I'm very good at finding the resources that make sense in order to get you to where you need to be. So that's where it all stems from.
That's great. Because I've gotten little pieces of that from you in our other conversations. I've never had it all in one place. I think that's awesome.
Thanks.
I do think you're really good at that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
One more.
Shoot.
One more.
You go for it. I'm ready.
How can I or other people who see this help you? You're good at helping other people, but how can we help you?
That's a hard one for me. I'm one of those that I like to help people, and I don't. Here's where the vulnerability comes in, right?
Yes.
So
Exactly. I'm the same way. I totally feel you. I totally do.
yeah, because it's letting that wall down, and I think it's always like when I don't know, my own intention are brought up, like when you let people help you, you're weak, right? You don't know what you're doing. So, but I'm going to throw that all out the window because that's not true. We all need help, no matter what it is.
I say that's a societal view that has been forced upon us.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. So I've learned that. So to help me is to just continue to, God, I love information fed to me. Like, share with me what you're all about and continue the conversation with me. That's why, like, this one hell of a conversation started, is because I feel that by talking to women such as yourself and about your journeys, that it makes me feel less scared or out in the wild by myself. and that I can learn from your experiences and how I can implement them into my life too. So it's just let's continue to talk, continue to talk, continue to throw whatever at me. You know, you just want to say hi and maybe on this conversation or not. And it's just, let's like keep the conversation going. That would really help me, because then I learn so much from that too. And then how I can help with everything else that I do too, because then I understand.
And I think that's a key element that a lot of people who choose to work from home miss out on by that choice, is they don't have those one-on-one situations. And I think being able to bounce ideas off of each other is key. You need to find that small circle of friends who are going to be there and do that thing for you, and then bring in other people,
Yes.
other ideas, and I think that's really important. I think that's part of why what I did worked, even though it was extreme. Um, we talked about it for 3 years,
Yeah.
bouncing things off of each other. My husband is an integral part of decision making for what I do. When it comes down, how to write something, he's like, I don't know, I'm not in that. But it's like, do you think this idea would work? He's all about that. So he is my sounding board.
That's
If you
awesome.
don't have, yeah, if you don't have one of those built in, they need a caprice to
I'm here for you.
do that. They need a caprice to do that.
Yeah,
Or
I
that
agree. I agree.
somebody, even if they don't know business, they don't have to know business, because half of the brilliant aspects of what I get from my husband is not the business aspect of it. It's the common sense. Why in the world would you do that to yourself? Moments. It's like, oh, you're right. That would be a mess. I
Yeah.
should probably do.
And
I should probably.
you bring up a great point, because I think business in itself is just about common sense, that we just lump under a business because we see a way that we can help others and perhaps make some money from it. And that's not wrong either. So like you said, I think you need the common sense, and you have to keep that open and trust your gut intuition too. And like you said, bounce ideas. I could care less if you're talking about, you want to know why the moon looks white today and it's going to be half covered tomorrow. But let's just talk about it, and understand why you started thinking about that.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm all up for that.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. So that is us in a nutshell.
That is crazy.
Yeah, I love it. I appreciate you taking the time and sharing you and about all your journeys and how you took the leap and how to help us. And because I believe, all of our stories are different yet all the same. We're all intertwined, kind of, we're all thinking the same stuff. So I appreciate you sharing and be open about that. And I look forward to talking again sometime, my girl.
All right. I love it. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. All right, we'll see you next time, Cynthia. Thank you.